Welcome back to the Road to Artcast podcast where we talk to some interesting people from across the country, but of course in the medium of podcasting, which I always end up meeting like the most interesting people through that. So, of course, I'm Ty King, your host, and today I'm joined by Dr. Dossey. Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. How's it going there?
It's going well, going well. I hear you like bugs.
Yeah, it's entirely too much. There's one up there. That's this one that I bred in a former insect zoo that I had recently, and I'm trying to get going again. It's a Farnacia sumatrana from Sumatra.
Wow, that was a bug flex. What is an insect zoo? If there's somebody out there that doesn't know.
It's a place where you can go see a bunch of bugs in cages and enclosures instead of in the wild. Hopefully not native to your area. There are little bug zoos, regional ones that they focus on ones that are native to the area to teach people about what's local. But our organization is interested in exposing to people to global biodiversity, things from all over the world that are really exciting or interesting, or we can tell them interesting things about or do interesting research to show people that even if it's on the other side of the world and it's a forest that's being cleared somewhere for BS reasons, like they should care. And because this cool thing that you get to see at the zoo is from there. And they'll go extinct if this stuff continues.
Really? Are the insect zoos, are those separate from like the regular zoos that you go to typically?
There are some separate ones, and some of the bigger zoos around the country do have an insect section. That's there are some decent ones in the U.S. The better ones are in Canada and Europe that I've seen. But as far as the numbers of insects in the world, the numbers of species compared to other stuff, none of them really do a good job of displaying the real, showing the real biodiversity because there are millions of species of insects and they're a majority, of the large majority of life on Earth and certainly a majority of the animals on Earth. But most of the insects may have between 5 and 15 species that I've seen on display. But then, a couple of hundred species of mammals and a couple of hundred species of reptiles or something like that. There's supposed to be way more insects.
Right. Seems like they don't take up as much space as the mammals.
They're taking up space. Care is, I mean, they breed like crazy. Most of them have hundreds of eggs per female, so it doesn't take much to go from a handful of eggs to a huge cage full where you're having to cull them and whatnot. Which I know some of the bit larger mammals have breeding programs that like it takes years to get one. But yeah,
Super
theoretically,
cool.
Bugsy should be a lot easier. That's kind of our goal. Is we want to have 1,000 species on display.
Okay, and the name of your organization is the Invertebrate Studies Institute.
Yes, Invertebrate
Awesome.
Studies Institute, ISI.
Awesome. Yeah. Tell me about it. How did it get
So
started? What made you want to get into this?
probably the first time I thought about doing this, I've always bred bugs as a hobby and collected them. It's always been a hobby. I've only ever had one entomology course ever. My PhD is in biomedical science, but I just like them and I think that they're cool. But the first time I really thought about this was I was doing a side project at the end of my PhD and a little bit when I was a postdoc on insect chemistry. I just was going out collecting bugs or getting samples from other bug or other breeders, hobbyists of the chemical defenses. Some of these things were making walking sticks was my focus group and got a lot of papers. And I thought, hey, I could continue to do this and do drug discovery, grind up insects or collect venom from them, look for potential drug compounds. And that's what I was pitching as what I was going to do if I was a professor looking for faculty jobs back then. And then I thought, the perfect thing is to maybe a partnership with a zoo. Or I said, so you got to breed these things. And a lot of them look really cool. And with the chemistry and all the cool stuff about their biology, you could really people get wowed when you actually present them in places like I've done some science fairs and stuff. And so I thought, yeah, I need a place to breed them and display them, but also use them for research. And this basically doesn't exist. I've never seen a place doing research and displaying things as like in an attractive way, like a zoo or something. So universities are doing research, but nobody gets to see the stuff that they're growing. And if, to the extent they're growing very much. And then zoos and museums don't really do much research. I know they might disagree, but to the level that a university or a, analytical chemistry, a drug discovery program or something, they're not, genome sequencing and things like they might have a few little projects they're collaborating with somebody on. But I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me that all this isn't happening under one roof because you got the animals, you got the research. One entity can do this, and you could, teach people about the research you're doing. So you could do research targeted at or preemptively answering the question, why should we care? Why is this interesting? Just do some stuff and show people at your same venue.
That's awesome. What made you want to get into, studying? You're an entomologist, right? That's a great terminology.
So yeah, my degree is biochemistry or biomedical science, biochemistry, and molecular biology. But yeah, entomology is the field for studying insects and I believe related arthropods. I could be wrong. Some grad student out there might freak out and ping me on social media or something. But I think they include spiders and other types of arthropods. Maybe that I don't know if that the crustaceans or the marine or the marine ones. I don't know if they're entomologists or not. But yeah, basically the study of insects and things that are kind of related. But that encompasses basically everything. At chemistry, there are chemists that work in entomology departments studying, the chemical defenses or pheromones or ways to, do pest control using the pheromones or other, studying ways, just coming up with things to kill them and stuff. All of those people can work in entomology departments.
That's awesome. Did you know, like, I guess from a young age, were you like so fascinated with bugs that you were like, I'm going to, I'm gonna do this with the rest of my life? Because it seems like that's kind of a kid thing always, right? You're always bringing in the walking sticks or, catching something out there and be like, oh, look at this beetle I found. Um, but turning that into a career, yeah, that's a little different than what most kids do.
Yeah, I kind of stumbled into it as a career. I wasn't sure. I guess in college, I selected biochemistry because I thought biochemistry more marketable, more broad of central science, had to do with medicine and lots of different things. Entomology, I always saw as pretty niche, and it's and like I was advised when I was going to grad school, learn the hard science or the not the hard the physical sciences first, physics and chemistry, because they're easier to learn when you're young, and they're more complicated. So if you can nail those, biology turns out to be easier to pick up later. Not always. There are physicists I know that are just completely perplexed by biology. So I kept entomology as a hobby, focused on the chemistry as the career for the biochemistry. But when I started my biotech company, All Things Bugs, a few years ago, is when I guess when I was in grad school, like I said, I was doing the insect projects, and I thought I can combine these because I can do the drug discovery using insects as the source of the compounds we're looking for. So that's when I really decided to put it in my career. But early on, I didn't envision it really being part of the career.
Yeah. I guess do you also see like a food use for some of the bugs that are out there? I know that's become popular in the more recent years in finding a healthier solution for finding protein powders or that type of things.
Yeah, that's the biotech company I started, and because I wasn't getting much traction on faculty job searches, I applied for a Gates Foundation grant and actually got it. And they said, "Where do you work?" And I said, "I don't work anywhere yet." So you have to work somewhere to get us for us to give you money. So I founded my LLC, All Things Bugs LLC, and that's it's really been my career over the past. The nonprofit ISI has been something I hope to grow. I'm looking for support and philanthropists and partners right now. It's more a recent thing that I've actually made a serious effort to file and get going. But All Things Bugs since 2011 has been my career doing research on developing insects as a sustainable bioresource in general. There's a lot of applications for mass-produced insects, but food and protein is kind of the core, the main. Produce lots of them and use them as a food ingredient. And that's because they're They are way better of a protein source as far as the environment and nutrition and clean label ingredients as compared to really all other protein sources. Even plants. People think of plants as natural and they think of them as sustainable. But soy and beans and peas and things really, I think when you look at it closely, use more resources than an indoor warehouse, vertical warehouse where you would farm insects. You can automate it, you can control it. They're very efficient at bioconverting what you feed them to insect body mass. You use the whole insect compared to like a soybean. You're just using the bean, and the stalks and the hulls and the roots are tilled back under or are not used for your primary goal. And even the bean is, only a few percent protein. So you're getting very little protein out of that. Then that protein is plant protein instead of animal. So it's deficient in certain amino acids. And so, yeah, there's a lot of reasons. And then they're outdoor, they're two-dimensional. You can't have a vertical soy farm, at least with current technologies. But you might have a drought, you might have a contamination event, you may have a pest or a pathogen, a virus or something that wipes it out. You're just susceptible to a lot of stuff being out there. And it's a very inefficient yield of protein.
Is that more, I guess, more sustainable than it would be for the soy field or, the beans that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's the insects or indoors is a what you feed. You get a lot of bang for your buck as far as your inputs for insects. You're getting a lot more protein, a lot more usable material than you would a plant-based protein. More nutrition, it's animal-based. You have your essential amino acids and fatty acids and such. You're not using GMOs or hormones or steroids or pesticides. A lot of, I hate to use the word chemical because everything is a chemical. We're all made of chemicals. But you're not using some of the more toxic or unnatural kinds of things used in plant and invertebrate livestock production. Like anything develops in the future, that might change with insects, but for now, they're very tough and easy, very prolific and very efficient source of protein. So they really are the best and at scale with the right infrastructure and most cost-effective protein to produce.
That's awesome. When it comes to science, we're always looking at, especially when it comes to bio, right? Are there any dangers right now to like any current practices that we're doing worldwide of like maybe you said that stick bug up there was almost in extinction, right? Like it's approaching that. Is there anything that we need to be aware of like current practices of how we live, how that's affecting, the bio, the life around us, you know what I mean, for the future?
I think there are some things that are known, that commonly known: eating less meat, eating less dairy. Eating a more plant-based diet is very helpful when insects come. When we're able to scale that. If you have an opportunity to get access to an insect-based food ingredient or food product, like all things bugs on our website, for example, we sell the ingredient. We're not looking for investors right now to sell some consumer products. But yeah, use things that are less impact on the environment. So how you vote is very important. It's a very a big year for that with the election and such. Vote vote with your wallet. Vote with your actual voting card. Pick people that really seem to care and understand science and biology and nature and propose things that will preserve more of the natural world. And then there's some less obvious things. I mean, maybe look into where the money is. Follow the money. Look at what companies own what. Our very few food companies own all of our food system, and so it makes it difficult for any new sustainable thing to get into the market. There are things like the way grants are structured, the way science careers are run, that people think are all above board and very ethical, and people have opportunities, but there are some real problems with science career opportunities and the way small business research is funded, and the lack of investment in things and what drives a VC capital investment and things like that, that people really, I think most didn't understand. I didn't understand until it became my job. I just was, and sometimes horrified and sometimes just try to work your way through the system and do the best you can on it. That, like, I think there are things out there that need to be supported, like insect protein, for example, that grassroots support could really help out, because the system as it's designed, funding, science, career structures, the industry structure, of food and whatnot, are not ideal for new things to come on. So I think any way people in their professional lives, maybe you do work at a food company, maybe you're a food scientist listening to this at Nestle or PepsiCo or somewhere, maybe try to push the executives, or, the higher ups, to let's do a project in this. Let's, reach out to this company. These are things that, if you're in the energy sector, try to use your power as much as you can to make sure that that your company or your society, or you're going the right direction. Did we run out of time?
No, sorry, my batteries on my audio interface over here ran out, so it switched over to my AirPods.
Okay.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, yeah. Are we still
Okay.
recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay. So yeah, like whatever your community, your country, your professional life, your company, your field, if you're part of a professional society of certain, food scientists, or whatever your field is, accountants, or, whatever, get involved. Try to, move things in the right direction wherever you can, influence in a positive way. Because there's plenty, the people that are out there being greedy, influencing things with non-altruistic, with negative motivations behind what they do, they're out there. As they say, the devil is busy. So if you have a good intent, try to steer it, grab the wheel sometimes when you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great information. Yeah, thank you. I'm not aware of a lot of those things, and so it's kind of interesting, and it'd be interesting to look up, more after we have this talk.
Could be a whole nother podcast. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's great. So like moving forward, I mean, you got the for profit that you have, and you have the nonprofit as well. I guess what does it look like for you, future wise, going into this kind of a more specific field where you are, I mean, like, it may not seem specific to you, but like for the generals, we're like, okay, you're doing science, you have your doctorate, but also it's in it's studying these bugs. What is this, the long term goals to keep going with the food based or the nonprofit or both?
Both for now. It's not. I mean, like a lot of small businesses, and I've talked to some VCs and fundraisers and economists and some people recently doing a lot of networking on LinkedIn, and it's just the level of wealth concentration in the United States and the difficulty for startups to get funding through investment is the worst it has ever been in this country. For those that study it, it right now is the worst time, which is awesome, because this is the time I'm looking for an investor. So it's a little hard. I'm open to consulting and doing some things through my company, but to kind of add some revenue, add some value to the company while we scale up the ingredient, while we find the investors and the partnerships with the food companies, so that can be my full-time focus. So I think that right now is still the full-time, focus, trying to scale the company up so that it can be stable and bring this, this will mean nothing unless people are using it, unless it comes to the world. It's available in grocery stores and things like this. The nonprofit is definitely a longer term, but I'm looking for philanthropists and partner organizations, board members. We need a couple of more board members that are active on the nonprofit, because I think that's a vision. I think it has a really good potential for having an impact in a lot of aspects of science careers, as well as inspiring the public, showing getting people excited about nature and preserving it, showing the value proposition. Well, one of the things I didn't mention on the nonprofit, one of our goals, so we want to build the world's largest biodome, world's largest insect zoo. The insect zoo is a pretty low bar because, like I was saying, there's not very many sizable ones. Although there are people with hobby that do this as a hobby in Germany, UK, and France, and places that have way more species, 200, 300, 400 species in their house or their basement than any zoo in the world has. So it kind of shocks me that a zoo, that these things aren't really public, but so it's our goal is to make them public. But the research, we also want to do research. Like I said, the whole value proposition that came to me early in my career was like Jurassic Park. You have a wonderful venue people can enjoy, and like an entertainment venue, could even be for profit, nonprofit combination. But then in the back room, or it's, doing hardcore research, genomics and things like that. And then, displaying some of the research to the public, have the science be involved in the public displays or talking to the visitors and things about what's going on there, in addition to just the cool things that are on display. So our core research focus would be drug discovery, with my original goal, looking for insects are the largest, most diverse group of organisms on Earth. So they probably have some interesting, valuable compounds that are very useful for humans, but also sequencing the genomes. And I'm very excited about this. We've done 3 genomes so far, sequencing the genomes of all of the insect species on Earth. It sounds like, oh, well, it could take 100 years or, maybe in the future. This is doable right now. It's affordable. It would cost less to do than was paid for Twitter. Certain billionaires paid way more for Twitter than it would cost to sequence probably all of life on Earth, to tell you the truth. And it's just the technology is mature. And it's one and done. It's not like you're a constant, money pit, like some philanthropists or some investors or whoever sees some things as they see science as a money pit a lot. But it's, with the technology we have now, they're doing it all the time. There's not one place that has enough money to do a huge number of species. But, for a couple of $1 billion, you could do them all. And with the technology we have there, it will be done. The quality of the genome, it would be assembled, it would be scaffolded, not to get too technical, but it would be there and for all time for science to use. And so I think that should excite some folks of means, that this could be the greatest contribution to science in history. The sequencing of all of the biological blueprint of all of life on Earth. Now, I'm talking to some people that if we can pull this off or start to do it, some more exotic things like feeding AI algorithms, the biological blueprint, the AST, the code of life on Earth being fed into an AI algorithm for, drug development, other types of agriculture, technology development, new crops, all kinds of things you would benefit substantially through an AI algorithm fed with billions of years of developed biology. I think that it has a big potential, and I hope it can. There was one thing I wanted to go back to. It skipped my mind when I was talking. And the one question you mentioned something like, we see insects and we see nature and science as just for kids. That's going to be it is a focus of ISI. Our target audience will be high school and older, or college and older. Adults have to start caring and changing. It's too late. We've gone too far with the land clearing and what we've done to the Earth and the species that are on the brink, thousands or millions of species that are now on the brink of extinction. If a kid, a third grader, now gets inspired and says, I want to grow up and study manatees, or God forbid they see them, I forget the name of the movie with the blue parrot, but they see the scarlet macaw and like, I want to be a biologist and study that. Kid's hosed. Because that thing, if things don't change, if the adults don't start to change their behavior in voting, in business, in what they eat, what they bring home, and how much recycling they do teaching their kids about doing these things and not just being a slacker and throwing everything away or whatnot. Manatee and, scarlet macaw is already gone. The manatee might be like, there's not enough time for youngsters to get inspired and then put it all on them to save the world. That's been happening for too long, actually, for the past 40, 50 years. They say, well, the kids will save it, that we need to inspire the next generation. It's too late. People who are our age need to start changing stuff and make a better future for the kids, not just hope they will develop it on their own. So I think as science funding and science as a career and a pathway is hurt. Like people don't see the value a lot nowadays of funding science, and they don't understand what, like they a lot of parents will say, I want my kid to grow up and be a scientist, but they don't know what that means, or they don't support the things that would actually beget a career for that kid whenever they do go after graduate college. And so it's the pathways die along the way, and it's and some things like I would argue sports, or something, there are some things that, yeah, fantasy, as a kid you can have these dreams, but grow up and do something useful. Science and nature stuff is actually the thing that you should grow up and aspire to, not grow out of. So I think that we need to change some of the things that will create the pathways and make it possible and comfortable and doable for more people to be scientists and biologists. So yeah, those things need to happen now. So I think that this, for example, the displays and the content of the displays for ISI's facility will be at a little higher level. Some organic chemistry, some compound structures of this insect. This walking stick is cool for these reasons, and here's the ecology. And oh, by the way, this is a list of compounds we've discovered. Or this is whenever you see it spray its defense in the cage. This is what you're looking at. This is the structure of the compound. With maybe one display describing, teaching organic structures 101 at the front of the facility or something. I've even joked that, like, to emphasize that science and nature is not for kids, we're going to put a bar in the front of the facility. So you have to be 21 to get in. I don't think we would do that. It's an entertainment venue as well as educational. There might be a bar somewhere, but it's a facility I think will be fantastic for filming, for filmmakers. I'm trying to reach out to filmmakers to kind of consult and get more scientific accuracy and some exciting facts about nature and stuff into movies. Training actors, set design, some things, script review to kind of get some of these things integrated into film, where I think they do for some of the nowadays producers do a pretty good job, but like I think I could help and plant some seeds as far as some of this conservation, or even just accuracy. Like, what is it really like to be a scientist? A bow tie? No. We're any more bow ties than any other group of people. Although if you look at the news, like CNN and the media, you would think a bow tie is a absolute requirement. But yeah, filming events, you got a biodome. We'll have a conference center. CNN could host its Heroes thing there instead of the New York Museum. Just floating it out there. I think it would be something that a city and a philanthropist would be very happy they support.
Yeah, that's incredible. Dr. Dossey, thank you for your time today. And I feel like I've been, educated on a lot of things I didn't know about. Now I'm curious about some things I'm definitely going to look into after we're done here. But if people are interested in getting in contact with you, either it's, to be on your board, or they love this idea of your facility, how do they get in contact with you?
Email isibugs.org. Or, I'm sorry, that's the website, isibugs.org. There is a contact form on there, but I would just email us directly at support@isibugs.org. Well, thanks for
Awesome.
thanks for the
No problem. Thank you.